4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We're in the middle of a big search now. Excuse me 1 second. There's a great deal of alarm calling going on here. Yes, please, Lex, that's where the guineas are shouting. I think they're probably going to pop out onto Twin Dams. I'm not sure. We're on the search for Karula and the cubs. They've got guinea fowl alarm calling in here. We had monkeys alarm calling earlier. You're on watching a safari. My name is James Henry. It's all very tense. Viam is on camera now. There we go. Sorry, we've got much confusion in my ear. Lex, sorry, I'm on Twin Dams. I'm going south, but the guineas are definitely calling somewhere in the middle of the drainage, so I don't know if they won't pop back out onto Central. It sounds like the guineas are on Central. Right, okay, I'm calm now, everyone. Hashtag Safari Live, please get hold of us, ask us any questions that you want to. Questions at WildEarthTV is another way to speak. Just stand by, please. I'm now... here we go, getting lots of talking again in my ear. Okay, copy Rex. Rexon is also on foot. He's coming down here. What else do I need to tell you? It's a beautiful day, 24 degrees Celsius, 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, that's what's going on. We're looking for Karula and the cubs. Jamie's out also. She's going to look for a hyena den. She'll tell you about that a little bit later. Tristan is on foot, and he and Rexon are going to go into this area, and they're going to look here. There's a duiker. The duiker can also hear the guinea's alarm calling. Guinea fowl, of course, are a bird that do not like to see leopards because leopards like to eat them. We'll just keep looking behind us. They could pop out anywhere here. There is a brown snake eagle that we'll stop and have a look at. There it is there. And let's just have another listen around here. I do apologise for that very rushed and panicked start, everyone. As we came live, there was a great deal flurry of activity out here and on the radio. Oh, I've got some more alarm calling off to the left. I think they're going to pop out right where we're sitting. That's what I think. I don't want to go too far forward or too far back. I just heard a brief bark from probably a bushbuck in here. Bah! 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 Have I said everything I'm supposed to say, Vian? I did say it was Safari Live, didn't I? Yes, I did. I gave us the social media strap. All right, let's head across to Jamie for slightly less frenetic and more poised introduction to the show.
And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome on our sunrise safari. My name is Jamie, and this morning Dave is on camera with me, and I don't blame James for being frantic because I could hear what was happening. I was trying to help him, shame. I was trying to help him answer all the questions on the Game Drive radio that we all communicate on, but there just wasn't really an opportunity to do so. So I've just left James to do his searching for Karula. It all turned a little bit chaotic for me. Just listening, sorry. Okay. And don't forget that on your live safari you can send through questions, and you can do that using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarth.tv. Gets very confusing when you're not allowed to say questions at WildEarth.tv for the TV shows, because we've all made the mistake where it's slipped out because it becomes such a habit saying hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, email questions@WildEarth.tv. What is this? It's a hyena. Now this morning my plan, before it was derailed by alarm calling everything, was to go off in search of the hyena den that I am convinced is here. It's not just Gwen. Somewhere around here there is a hyena den that we have not found, and I want to try and figure out where it is. And I could hear that hyena calling in front of James. I was actually behind James, he didn't see me, but I could hear that hyena calling in front of him. Try and work out where this den site is. I'm not sure about anything. I think it's between Twin Dams and here. It's just a question of where. Where do you think, Dave? Should we check the old den quickly? Let us do that. And the fact that there were 8 hyenas the other day on Twin Dams Road would strongly suggest the possibility that our hyenas are really truly back with us. Even Brent's changed his mind. He agrees with me now. It's the small victories. Now it's just a matter of finding it. Just check the old den road quickly. I think, oh goodness, there's stuff falling everywhere. I'm in Brent's vehicle and it's like a little nest of books, cameras, water bottles. I don't quite know how he manages to fit in here. No. You see, when you get a hyena den, they generally walk along the roads that we make into them. And no hyena has walked along there. They've walked everywhere else, but not along there. Where is that? Shh, James. Sorry. Oh, it's far away. I was going to try and show you the little pearl-spotted owl that was calling. No, it's here somewhere. It's such a sweet sound. Where is it, Dave? Trying to spot an owl the size of my hand. That's interesting. A very interesting sound. It's okay, Rusty. I know. It's been a long week. Lots of wild dog chases. Rusty's steering wheel at the moment doesn't quite face the same direction as her wheels. I suspect that little owl is in that knobthorn somewhere there. Now there's a Franklin alarm calling. But that's probably not from Karula. Sorry, Rebecca, don't take this personally, but I'm just taking my earpiece out. I can hear low... I think I heard a low hyena contact call. Alright, let us abandon the search for the tiny owl and go and find these hyenas. I went back to Gwen yesterday, by the way, yesterday morning. Am I boring you, Dave? My goodness. Do you still have your tonsils by any chance? I tried to see, but it was too quick a glance. It is early in the morning, in Dave's defense. That's quite a special sunrise, isn't it? I suppose we should stop for that too. Let me try and find us a nice spot. Okay, there isn't a good spot. There we go. There we go. That's better. Gives me a nice opportunity to listen to the sounds of the bush as well. Isn't that lovely? Okay. Right. We've watched the pretty sunrise for a while. Now we've got things to do and animals to find. Which way? Of course, with the sun coming over the horizon, it means it's light enough for us to be out on foot. Let's go over so that Tristan can say good morning to you.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, with me. And so far this morning it is absolutely perfect weather. We've got this beautiful sun rising behind us, and the monkeys have been going crazy around the camp. So we're on the lookout for any signs, and we managed to pick up a track for a single leopard. So I think it's probably one of the cubs of Karulas, and I know that there has been tracks for Karula in the area. So we're going to be on those tracks and just seeing if we can maybe follow up and give James a hand. I know he has been trying with the vehicle, but being on foot is a little bit easier. We can check in all those areas that are away from the road. So at the moment we're busy following some of those tracks. So far they're heading southwards, so we're on those with Rexon, who's our security detail for the day. So he's busy following up ahead of us. And it promises to be a really good morning. It's, I think, going to be quite a warm day today. There's very few clouds in the sky, and as that sun rises, it looks like it's going to be very, very warm. It's already, the temperature is starting to lift quite quickly, so it promises to be a really good day. Luckily, we don't have too many clouds or too many or any wind, so it is perfect conditions for walking. And the lack of wind is also really good for tracking. When you're tracking, wind is not really your friend. You're going to try and kind of stay away from the wind as much as possible. It often drifts and makes your scent drift around, and that can make it quite tough to find animals. So when it's not windy like this, it's perfect for tracking. So hopefully we'll be successful this morning. It's the idea anyway. Alright, so Rexon's just indicated to me that the tracks are heading down the hill here and towards the Mulawati drainage. I wouldn't be surprised that she's going into that drainage and then is just going to head straight south, maybe back towards Twin Dams. Maybe the crocodile episode is not finished yet. I believe yesterday she was teaching the cubs a little bit about crocodiles, and they had quite a nice interaction there. So I wonder if maybe it's round 2 now. Go and investigate what's going on there and keep the cubs away from that crocodile and teach them as they go. But isn't it beautiful with all this grass that you see here? All this cat's tail is absolutely beautiful for this early morning light. It kind of takes all of the seeds and they grab all that light, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. It's like a carpet of gold that runs across this way. So very, very pretty this morning. It's one of the best times of days to be out on foot, is as that sun rises, all these birds start to chirp and it kind of starts to come alive a little bit. So really, really nice to be out on foot at this time. So like I say, we're just looking for any sort of sign of her. She, luckily, if it is Karula and the cubs, it is 3 different leopards, so generally they leave quite a few signs. If you think about it, 3 times 4 is 12, so 12 feet that are walking around here. And given that it's still quite dry and we haven't had too much rain, we should be able to pick up their tracks fairly easy. Even in these grassy areas like this, there's little pathways that run that they often like to utilize. So I'm pretty sure we can find some sort of sign of them here. Like I say, I'm pretty sure they're going to head to the drainage line and then head straight south. But while we're doing that, we're also going to be looking for any signs of little things. We're going to be looking for insects and beetles and spiders and anything that can grab our attention. That's the beauty of the bushwalk, is that you can get completely kind of sidetracked with all these small things. So Diana has asked if I've ever marked my own scent on a bushwalk. Well, Diana, sometimes nature does call and you have to have a sort of pit stop and a break quickly and mark your own scent. Yes, it does happen. Generally it's not too much of a problem. There are trees and grasses and bushes everywhere that provide quite a few places to have a little loo break. So yes, I have. I would imagine James and Brent and Jamie have all probably done the same. It's one of those things that unfortunately you get caught out from time to time. So I have indeed. Got to be a bit careful. I actually once had a tracker who was telling me a story about a guest that he had on drive, and she was dying for the loo, and so she got off the vehicle and they stopped, and nobody really checked what was around them, and she got off the vehicle and went behind this termite mound, and as she got behind the termite mound she pulled down her pants and started to go to the loo, and as she looked up there was a lioness staring straight at her, and apparently he said to me that she didn't even pull up her pants and she was on the vehicle before anybody could get any idea of what was going on. The lioness had this bewildered look on her at this lady streaking across the road with no pants on. Apparently it was highly entertaining. So from that day, he says to me always he checks everywhere in that area to make sure that there's no sign of any predators, and rightly so. I don't think you want to be caught with your pants down and a lioness staring at you. Alright, so we're going to carry on these tracks and see what we can find and see if we can give James a hand here. And while we do that, we're going to go across to Jamie, who's going to give us an update on the hyena den.
The trail is heating up, both for Karula and for these hyenas that are here somewhere. And I was really hoping that when I got to this waterhole, there was going to be a hyena drinking from it. But there is not. And in fact, there's not even the Egyptian geese anymore. They've just flown away. The hyena are whooping away, or they were. I was saying earlier, I did go and visit Gwen yesterday, but she wasn't around, and her cub immediately shot out of the den, as they have been doing over the last few days, and raced away. So I left the little ones to their own devices. I still think, because she walks an exact path all the way back here, somewhere here, each and every single night, and then back the same way to her cubs in that den site, which makes me think she's checking in with the rest of the clan. I think there's one termite mound I want to check. We're just going to do it. I'm busy tracking a calling hyena, and the problem is they move so quickly. It's probably actually more difficult than tracking wild dogs at times, because they just belt along the road. You just check that it hasn't popped out here on a kill. And one Birmingham, the cubs were making lots of noise, and it was a really lovely sighting. And it wasn't far off this road, and I don't know why I think that's the den that they're using. I think they came, now this is real supposition, I think they came to check out the Philemon's cutline den and decided that since the elephant had pushed over their big shade tree, that actually it wasn't as good a den as it used to be. And probably with the fall of that tree, the roots probably collapsed some of the tunnels in there. And I think that's what's led them to move into one that we have not visited before, potentially. No, see, this hyena walked all the way along this road, but is no longer on this road. Hopefully that means it's in here. Let us go and investigate, Dave. We are going to find this hyena den this morning. Now, Brenda, you want to know whether or if Gwen had moved back in, wouldn't there be a latrine or a pile of bones close by? A pile of bones? Potentially, yes, absolutely. Although we do know where Gwen is. I'm actually thinking it's the rest of the hyena clan, the higher ranking females that are denning somewhere here. And it would be perfect timing for them to have new cubs as well. So it's not that we know where Gwen is. I think it's the others. Yes, absolutely. Hyenas do mark in latrines, and latrines do get closer together the closer you get to their den site. I can't remember where this termite mound is exactly. I'm trying to remember. And bones, especially with high-ranking females, yes, you'll get bones around a hyena den. It's just a matter of trying to guess exactly where it is. There are lots of hyena latrines around this area, but it's very difficult to determine whether or not it's just because it's part of their territory, or if it is actually indicating a den site. Okay, here we go. It's in here somewhere. In fact, I can see it. I can see the termite mound, I'm thinking. Let's go and have a look. Very gently, because as I said, Rusty's wheels are feel like they're facing opposite directions. Which way? This way. Hyenas, please be here. Otherwise we'll have to start from scratch again. They were whooping in the middle of this block when I heard them earlier. This could be a potential den site. There are lots and lots of big termite mounds. So you're right, bones are a good indication of a den site, as are chewed sticks and branches around the outside, because hyena cubs like to investigate everything, usually with their teeth. So there could be fresh bones around. Let's just have a look-see here. It's too much grass, I would have thought, at the entrance. That's definitely freshly used and freshly dug. But there would have been a hyena here, and there's too much grass around the entrance. That's probably a warthog living in there. That is definitely not something you want to walk in front of on foot, because you could potentially have a 200-pound warthog racing out towards you in a flurry of terror, both yours and the warthog's. I've forgotten where I'm going. I'm sure it was in this direction. Oh, that's gonna hurt. Ow! That did hurt. Buffalo thorns. Amali, you want to know why she would constantly move the cubs. And I assume you mean Gwen. I don't think she is. I think she's keeping, although they are big enough to come out with her now. They're 8 months old, so they are moving around with her. We see their tracks on the road all the time. I don't think she's constantly moving them. I think she's leaving them there and then moving to go and check in with the rest of the clan. So from what we understand, Gwen's quite a low-ranking hyena. She's not high up in the clan hierarchy, but she's still part of the clan. So she's still connected to them. She still plays a role in the defense of their territory. They're still very much a unit. She just happens to be the bullied one, almost. I mean, she's full of scars and holes. So it's not so much that she's moving the cubs, it's just that I think she is herself is moving backwards and forwards. It smells here as well. I'm hoping it smells like hyena, or I just drove through a hyena latrine. Ah, this is it, and it doesn't look hopeful. Drat. Oh, goodness. Yes, I remember this from the sighting. The fact that that buffalo skull is sitting neatly there would suggest to me that we are not at the hyena den. That would have been tugged and dragged, and this is the termite mound I was thinking of. Surprisingly difficult to find something where you haven't been there in months. Okay, hyenas, now would be a wonderful time to whoop and give us an indication. It is very pretty. It would be much prettier if there were a hyena sitting on top of it. While I figure out my next move and decide where I think these hyenas are, if they're not here, let's head back to Tristan and find out where he's wandering.
Indeed, I couldn't agree more, Jamie. It would be really nice if there was a hyena on top of that termite mound. I did hear them calling, so they are around this morning. It sounded like that general area where the Jamie is at the moment, but maybe she'll get lucky and find them wandering about in that area. But while we were on our tracking mission with Karula, we came across this little water hole or little mud puddle, and we came to just see if there was any tracks for them having a little drink here. And when we got here, we managed to locate a big white ball on the tree. Now, that big white ball over there is made by a frog. It's from what is called a foam nest tree frog, and these tree frogs basically use that as a way of protecting their eggs when they are still small. So what happens is the female comes up on this tree, and then she will start to secrete a mucus. And as she secretes a mucus, she starts to kick her back legs, which causes it to foam. And the males, while she's doing that, she's calling constantly, and the males will then start coming up onto the tree as well. And sometimes you'll get a few males coming up, and as she lays her eggs, multiple different males start depositing their sperm. Those eggs then start to get fertilized, and they will actually hatch inside this foam. And when they are hatching inside there, it is a moist environment, and so the tadpoles can survive inside there until they get too heavy, and once they're too heavy, they then fall down into the water. So it's a really clever system, because by the time they actually fall in, those tadpoles are far more developed than other tadpoles that could potentially be in this water source, and so for them they are able to evade predation a little bit easier than those smaller tadpoles. So very, very clever system. I've never seen actually anything eat the foam nest. You would think that being full of tadpoles would be nutrient rich and really easy to get to, but it's the first I've ever seen. And I think Brent even mentioned on when he was live that it was the first time he's ever seen a leopard go after a foam nest. And I must be honest, it's the first time I've heard of it, and I've never really seen anything else do it. So it's a clever system for a frog. It means obviously that white foamy substance is not something that other animals like to taste or to try and even attempt, and so it keeps the little tadpoles very, very, very healthy, which is really, really cool. We also were here, and there was a little pony flank prinia bouncing around inside here. Unfortunately, have flown off, hoping to stay still so we start catching prey, given that he's not on his about 11 birds behind, so that could have been a good one just to add to it. It's starting to get tough to remember what birds we actually have on camera and what we don't. Ultimately, we're in a situation where you kind of see a lot of birds every day, but you tend to forget which ones you've actually picked up live, and so it's nice to have somebody keeping record and being able to tell us what's going on. So as you can see, we're in this kind of riverbed system here, and this is a perfect place for where leopards would like to walk. I'm pretty sure that this is where they've headed. There was a sign of them at the Twitter stores here, but it's not to mean they didn't come down here. The last track that we had was coming into this little section, so I'm sure they are in here somewhere. It's just going to take the time to find them. So while we carry on looking, we're going to go back to Jamie and see what her update is for us.
Okay, just a quick apology to all of you watching that it seems as though Bushwalk is experiencing the odd signal breakup. We do apologize. It is just part and parcel of bringing you a live safari twice a day, every day. As you can imagine, live Bushwalk is particularly tricky. I'd explain how it works, but I don't know. So we do apologize for that. We are aware, and we're trying to sort out the problem. In the meantime, the search continues for the hyena den. Another freshly used termite mound and a freshly utilized hole, but not, I think, by our hyenas. Where next? Where am I? I think this is the old den site that they used to use. Oh, there's no tracks. I don't think this is hyena using this. Come on, hyena. Where's my phone? Let's not be silly about this. Let me at least keep track of where I've checked. No, that's Google Maps. That's not going to help me at all. So I am there. Okay. So okay, that makes more sense. The old den is around here. That's the one that they're not using. This is also the one that they're not using, and there's one just back here that they're not using. So at least we've sort of tracked our progress ever so slightly as to where we are. Treehouse Dam is there, just to give you an idea. And then where we live, which is where the hyenas are spending a great deal of time, is just up here. So just to give you an idea of the map and where we are, and to actually help me keep track of where I've checked. Okie dokie. That way. Let's go that way. Let's pretend there's a... Oh, I know, Rusty, it's okay. Don't worry, we're not chasing wild dogs. Just hyenas. Hello? Nobody's home. Okay. I'm also sort of hoping, because I was following a hyena calling, that's why we're off-road in here. I'm also sort of hoping that the hyenas might find us. Curious sub-adults perhaps might come and investigate the noises. Now, the hyenas of the main part of the clan are not afraid of us at all. Gwen's cubs are not habituated to vehicles, but our hyenas that we spent a lot of time with are, and I'm hoping that that might encourage them to come and investigate what is moving through the bush. That's how we found the Aubrey's Road den sites. We were off-road for elephants, we were sitting watching them ages ago, and all of a sudden there was just a pair of hyena cubs looking at us curiously. So I'm hoping that might happen with us this morning. I really am just trying my luck here. We know they're somewhere around, but they're not in any of their old den sites, so I'm just trying to find their new one. But it's entirely not quite a shot in the dark, because there's tracks and there's a hyena calling somewhere in here. Wow, that's a big termite mound. If I were a hyena, I might be there. Maybe. Let's go there. Let's go investigate that one. Doesn't look like they're in that one. That one doesn't look like a good place. I wouldn't want to live there if I were a hyena. That's the wrong side of the neighborhood. We could have made life easier for us and just gone to the Mvubu Road den. Let's go check this one. Oh, there is a very big hole there. And of course, there is a chance that I'm bumbling around here and I'm at a hyena den and I don't know because none of the adults are here. I'm going to sit here for a little bit. This one looks positive. No grass at the entrance. I can't see any chewed sticks, but I'm just going to sit here patiently and see whether or not a hyena pops out. I'm sure you're all wondering what James has been up to and where he's disappeared to. Let's go and find out from the man himself.
Did she say we're live? Oh, hello everyone, sorry about that. The Game Drive radio, as per usual, became loud as we went live. I'm afraid that we have really not got much to say, other than we reckon perhaps the guinea fowl that was shouting, were shouting at a brown snake eagle. I think they were very upset about a brown snake eagle though, so I don't know what's going on here. Righty, so Jamie's at a positive hyena den, or positive termite mound. That's very good. It's always important to be at a positive termite mound. I feel a negative termite mound is a very poor way to start a Tuesday morning. We are here now back at the dam, and I'm going to show you what happened once I'm on the top here, because it will be difficult for you to understand unless I actually point it out. It's difficult for me to understand. Right, so we're on the dam wall here, facing sort of northeastish, pretty much. Directly across here is where Karula killed a baby duiker yesterday. She brought the cubs up to the top of it yesterday evening. Brent followed them on the assumption that there was a very big kill there. It was a sort of scrub hare sized duiker. They finished it during the night. They came down here. Her tracks go all the way across Quarantine, this is Karula's, and down away off to the west. They're still following them there. The tracks of the cubs go down in here, and that's where we find ourselves. So we'll keep looking for the cubs, I think, for a while. Taxon is looking for Karula. But these little ones could easily have been sort of stashed away in here. Now, I'm afraid I must just tell you that there are only 2 days left for you to get your t-shirts for the royal birthday. Now, if in case you've been hiding under a rock somewhere or been on holiday, royalbirthday.wildearth.tv gives you the chance to buy a t-shirt with a sort of, what would we call it, a drawing, an image created by Graham Wallington, very artistic fellow that he is, of Karula and the two cubs. And you can buy a t-shirt at royalbirthday.wildearth.tv, but only until Tuesday, at least till Thursday. After Thursday, no more t-shirts. You'll be undressed, unfortunately. We're just keeping an eye out here. And then also, I think round about the same place, you can buy a high-resolution image of the picture, and you can buy that for whatever you want to buy it for. You can buy it for 50 US cents. You can buy it for, well, $1 million if you want to, and you can just use your PayPal account to pay for that. So if you want a really nice high-resolution image of Karula and the cubs, artistically created by Graham Wallington, well, then you can just download it and you pay whatever you want to pay for it. And the idea behind this is that it contributes, of course, to our explorations. We went to the Mara last year, we went to Rwanda last year as well. We're hoping to do more in the Mara this year, more in Rwanda, possibly in India. So all sorts of interesting things going on. But of course, nothing in this life comes for free, and so we have to pay for these things. So Wild Earth, royalbirthday.wildearth.tv, and you can buy the t-shirt there, or you can download the high-resolution image for the price of your choice. It's not often that you get to choose what you pay for something, is it, VM? No, normally you get ripped off, I find. Yes, or people try to sell you something that is worth less than it is. Whoop, big log. We're going to continue looking for the tracks around here. Obviously we don't mind seeing anything else, so anything else that pops out will be wonderful. Lisa, very good question, and I guess the answer is round about now. You say, at what age will leopard cubs stop being called leopard cubs? When do they become leopards? I think probably round about now. They are now a year old after all. That's what the royalbirthday.wildearth.tv celebration was about. But they would be called sub-adults now, I suppose. I think that they'll sort of be known as cubs until they leave home, to be honest. So when Shongile goes independent, probably within the next sort of 3 or 4 months, I think she'll become known as a sub-adult female, and then Hosanna will be a cub for a little bit longer. I mean, they are technically sub-adults now. They are not technically cubs anymore, they're a year old. But because they're still at home with Mum, you know, my mother still calls me her baby boy, you know, my tender age of 40 years of age. That's quite embarrassing, really. I shouldn't have said that. Right, we're going to go back onto the dam wall and just have a look down into the drainage and see if we can't spot something. I think they were playing around here, you know, just as we headed out of camp. It is astounding how much serendipity is required to find these animals. There are tracks here going in here. This could easily be Shongalai or Hosanna. And they, of course, now, because they are sub-adults, they're not cubs anymore, they will play around. They won't stay put, especially the male. He's very wondrous. He likes to move about a bit. And they've definitely come back this way. The tracks are all over here. Now we'll try and find you a decent track. I don't know if they came through this way yesterday. No, I don't think they did, you know. Try and find you a decent track. I think I may have driven over most of them. Here we go. Can you see here, Vyumpi? That's Hosanna, I think. Now, it's almost impossible for you to tell, I suppose, from there the size, but Karula's is roughly the same length, a little bit shorter. So Karula's his is that length, hers probably about that length, but his is much wider. Now we'll find you shongiles now. These leopards are somewhere around here, close by. Probably watching me, thinking, what an idiot. Alright, let me try and find... There are also hyena tracks all over here. I did see one shongile track, which was obviously smaller than the others. But I'm afraid I think I drove over it. I'm sorry about that. But that's Hosanna there. I'm 95% sure about that. He's come up here, but I think they were probably playing around here. And then she told him to stay put, and she headed off. And I suspect she passed in front of the dam cam just while it happened to be looking the other direction. In fact, I suspect she passed straight past us while we were looking in the other direction too. Right, Tristan apparently, very cleverly and on cue, has got a track of shongile that he'd like to show you.
We do indeed. So we've managed to find where the cubs have come out of the Mulawati and are starting to head slowly west. And here you can see the track. So here is the track here. Now, this particular track, it looks a little bit larger than what it normally would. You would probably assume that this would be Hosanna's track, but it's because of the substrate or the type of soil that we're in at the moment. So it is very soft and very, very powdery. So if you have a look, when I put my finger down, you can see even my finger makes a very, very big impression and a rather large track like that. So even though Shongila's got quite small feet, because she's stepped on this really soft mound, her track has spread and gotten a lot bigger. But this is definitely for her. Where we first found the tracks was quite... This is a really encouraging sign. These tracks are very, very fresh. They're from this morning, so it's a good sign that we're onto them now, and hopefully we'll be able to keep following these as we go. Like I say, they are starting to head eastwards. Away from the Mulawati now, and so I think what's happened is they've split off from Karula. I know somebody picked up some tracks of Karula in the west, and I think she's left them in this general area, so I'm sure if we just really look around quite carefully, we should be able to find them. At the moment, the tracks seem to be just going straight down the road. When we were following them, they were kind of just heading straight, like I say, in an easterly direction. But I wouldn't be surprised. There is a little riverbed that's running here with some beautiful big trees. I wouldn't be surprised that's where they're starting to head to for the day. Given that if Karula has left them, because there's no sign of Karula's tracks anywhere here, would be that they would probably be hanging around in this general area. They're not going to move too far from here. Ultimately, they know that if Mom is successful, she needs to find them again, so they can't move around too much. But it is a really good sign. So actually, if you have a look here, you can see here's the exact same track, and you can see the size difference now that we're on slightly harder ground. You can see much, much, much smaller. So if you have a look at my hand, you can see she's still got very little feet in comparison to Hosanna's feet, but very, very nice. And you can see it's on top of all the vehicles. It's on top of all of the nocturnal animals as well. So we know it's Shongile's track just because we had the tracks for both Hosanna and Shongile walking together, and you can see the size difference between the two of them. Shongile is much, much smaller than Hosanna's. Hosanna's got a really much bigger foot already, given that he's almost double the size. It's much, much bigger. The other thing is that with a male track, generally on the back pad, so when you've got your track and it forms the back lobes like this area here on a male, if you have to run a line through it like this, it almost completes a full circle, whereas a female, it has a slight edging on the side, and so as you come round, the line will take you away from the track and not back into it. And so that's how you can tell male and female if you didn't have the two of them together. But given that we have both together, it makes it much easier to be able to tell whose is whose. Also, at the moment, just the size of it, luckily enough we're with Rexon at the moment, who is helping us and looking after us while we're walking out here. And he's seen these tracks since when they were small, so he knows them really, really well, and so he knows exactly which one is which, and he also has been showing us the differences between the two of them. But yeah, it's quite easy when the two are walking together. If they were separate, a little bit tougher, but again, like I say, Osana's truck is just that much larger than Shongile's at this stage. Now I'm hoping, like I say, that they are moving into this drainage and into this area here. There's a massively big jackalberry tree that I was hoping we would find her in. I've always wanted to see a leopard in that big jackalberry, so I was hoping maybe one of them would be draped over that branch, but alas, nothing yet. But like I say, this is hopefully they won't be too far away. Like I say, I don't think they would travel too much without their mom, although you never know. Sometimes leopard cubs are a little bit naughty and they can move away a little bit, but it seems like they're still going straight down in this direction. And actually Rexon is just telling me now that it looks like they've cut off and they're heading straight past this big jackalberry that we see on our left hand side and straight down back into this riverbed system. Like I say, I'm pretty sure they're not far away. We just need to keep on these tracks and see what we can find. Okay. So Rex says he's going to just carry on a little bit and we're going to follow on the tracks. So this is the perfect place for leopards to be hanging out. Like I say, it's kind of a depression, so they can hide out here. Lots of really nice bush for them to sleep under for the day. So just have to be a little bit more aware when we drop in here and just see what's going on and make sure that we don't surprise a couple of leopard cubs in a thicket. Now I saw an incredible bit of footage of James with Shongile and how she just sat in a tree watching him on foot, which is absolutely incredible. Generally leopards, when they see people on foot, tend to move away. They don't like to stay too much in that area, so quite surprising. So I'm hoping she'll be as kind to us as she was to him and will actually spend time with us if we do find her. Alright guys, so while we carry on these tracks and just see what we can find in these thickets, we're going to try to see if we can concentrate a little bit and don't get eaten. We're going to go across to Jamie at her den site.
I think we would all prefer if Tristan didn't get eaten. We have left our positive den, which unfortunately was a negative den in the sense that it was not home to any hyenas. There's our little baby magpie, or there is a little baby magpie shrike, chirping frantically for the adults to come and feed it. Just listen to the noise it's making. It's the crested barbet calling as well, trilling away. But you've got something. Yeah. You've got something in your beak. Is it because you've been abandoned? Is that what's wrong? And did they leave you behind? It's a young magpie shrike, but it's fledged already, so it's still learning the whole flight pattern by practicing hopping from branch to branch, flapping its wings. Now, magpie shrikes are cooperative breeders, which means that the offspring from the previous clutch of eggs will help to feed the next set. What have you got? You've been fed. So what you complaining? Like a toddler that doesn't like the food it's been fed. Well, eat it then. What's wrong? It sounds like we're actually in a bird feeding party. There's lots of different birds calling. Let's just sit and wait patiently. Let's see whether or not the rest of them return to it. There's black-headed orioles calling as well, and the crested barbets. You can hear the rest of them. They just don't seem all that interested in the cries of the little one. And what I've noticed about magpie shrikes is they really like to build nests in very thorny trees. Buffalo thorns, knob thorns. I suppose makes sense. Now, oh hi Bacon, you want to know if a magpie is... Whoop, there we go. It's actually already got its long tail, almost got its long adult tail. Not quite. Looking a little bit scraggly. Sorry, you wanted to know if the magpies are part of the crow family. Magpies, yes. Magpies are. Magpie shrikes, on the other hand, and gone. Obviously, not such a baby that it can't fly relatively long distances. Decided it's tired of waiting, perhaps going off in search of the rest of its family. Magpie shrikes are different. They're part of the shrike family. They're called magpie shrikes because they're black and white, and they've got quite long tails. So if we have a look at Brent's somewhat bedraggled book, just hold on 1 minute, let me just try and find it. His bird book's even more... Goodness. Try and remember the number next time. His bird book's even more tattered than mine is. There we go. So this is the family that a magpie shrike belongs to. So the fiscal shrikes, I'm not sure where exactly it is in the world that you are from, but I'm sure that you have shrikes where you are. They are quite a widespread family, and we've got quite a few that migrate to different areas. And there we go. These are all of the shrikes that we get in Africa. I'm just going to turn the page here so we can look at the magpie shrike. There's our magpie shrike. So that's the reason it's called a magpie shrike, is just because it's black and white, also known as a long-tailed shrike, with that very, very long tail. The interesting thing about magpie shrikes is that both the males and the females have long tails all year round, which is a disadvantage in a way. Those are the different shrikes. It's a disadvantage in a way because long tails are clumsy. They're not particularly what's the word? Agile, if you've got a long tail like that. And most birds that do adopt long tails only the males do so, and they only do so in the breeding season. So things like widers. So I'm not quite sure exactly why it is that both the females and the males have these long tails all year round. I suppose it must serve some sort of a breeding purpose, but it's an odd evolutionary design to have such a strange long tail. There's the crested barbet that was calling. Also a really stunning bird. There we go. That's the bird that has been trilling away, and while we watch it, it might actually trill some more for us. But Diane C, talking about the magpie shrike's long tail, yes, it does grow long quite soon after hatching. So when that chick starts to fledge, from what we've seen over the last few weeks, we've seen quite a few baby magpie shrikes. They start to develop that long tail quite quickly after they start to fledge, or at the same time, essentially, they grow that long tail. Again, seems like such a silly disadvantage to have. You're tiny, you're just starting to learn to fly, and now you've got to have this massive encumbrance, this heavy weight dangling down for a bird that's adapted to hop round in thorn trees. It's peculiar, a little oddity of nature. I give up on this hyena den. It's getting too late to find them. It's kind of got to be done early in the morning or late in the evening. I think we're going to have to get lucky. Either we're going to stumble on the den during a bushwalk, or we're going to find the hyenas and actually follow them back to the den site itself. We'll go and check on Gwen, see whether or not she is home, in inverted commas. Oh, hello little one, there's our baby giraffe. It's okay. It's alright, running up to Mum. This is the baby giraffe from yesterday. We're very, very close to where we were during the TV show yesterday. Girl. Let's just sit here and wait. I think the calf will come to her. Where is it? I don't want to block it. Oh, there you are. Little one, you can go. You can go and catch up with Mum. It's sort of just hidden behind this thick patch of foliage over there. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. There it comes. Hello. And just sit here quietly. Still a little bit nervous. I don't want to block it off from Mum at all. They're over a month old, if I had to guess. Not much over a month old. The umbilical cord's dropped out, and the ossicones are upright, and that's usually the easiest way to judge whether or not a baby giraffe is under a month or so. Little one, you look so funny. You are so disproportionate. They really do look so peculiar, baby giraffe. Long legs to keep up with Mum, but a short neck so that it can actually reach under Mum to suckle. Let the engine run a little bit. Let it know that we don't mean it any harm. We're not going to go racing directly at it. Oh, it's going to be right into the sun. Hello, baby. How's that there? Oh. Mum? Where are you, Mum? Cute. And as we creep forward, yes, now you feel safe because Mommy is there. As we creep forward, Diana would like to know if that baby giraffe is a female. It looks like it, Diana. It's not as easy to tell with juveniles just because all baby giraffe have hairy ossicones. So there's hair on the tops of their heads, and their ossicones tend to be quite thin. It's only when they get a little bit older that they start to solidify. So it can be a bit tricky. There we go. That's the ossicones of the mum. Right into the sun. Complete with oxpecker. Always. Picking up the various ticks that she's acquired. Now here comes the little one. If it were a male, the easiest way to tell with a young giraffe would be to look at the belly, where you'd be able to see the bump of the penis sheath. And of course, like all animals, if it were a male, it would still have to go through puberty, so its testicles wouldn't have dropped yet. No, I think it's a female. I don't see any sign of male appendages. Little one? Sorry, I'm closely examining you. But it is slightly more tricky. You've got to be a little bit more careful with young giraffe. Sometimes even young males can fool you into thinking it's a female. Billie Jean! You want to know... that song's going to be in my head now. Sorry, Billie Jean. You want to know how tall baby giraffe are when they are born. Let me just try and work this out in terms of height. They're about 2 meters, I think. They're about 6 feet. I mean, they already, when they're born quite well developed. They're already around 200 odd pounds. And this little one, I would say, is nearly as tall as Brent. Actually, it might be taller than Brent already. No, not quite. What do you think, Dave? Yeah, I'd say it's taller than, close to Brent. So Brent's 6'4". Okay, so let's go just under. Little nibbling thing. And Jason in Canada, from how tall are they when they're born? It's interesting, it is actually eating solid food. Might be a bit older than I thought. I mean, really only start eating solid food at about 4 months, but I don't think this one is 4 months old. It just doesn't quite look big enough. Sorry, Jason. The record-holding giraffe was around about 6 meters in height. That is 18 feet, just over 18 feet. And generally, you're looking at about 4.5 meters, 4.5 to 5 meters tall. So between about 12 to 15 feet. It's really sweet. It's still suckling. It's definitely still suckling because I saw it suckling earlier. Yesterday, not earlier. Cute. Hey, little one. Our giraffe, unlike most of our creatures, are pretty much silent. And Marianne, you want to know whether or not they make contact calls. There's a lot of research now being done into some of the low sounds that giraffe can make. They don't make contact calls as we know them, and we hardly ever hear them make any sounds at all. They're very, very silent creatures. Occasionally you get a sort of a coughing sound from them, but that is about it. But they are doing a lot more research into the different ways that giraffe communicate. Most of it is visually. They do have a voice box, they do have a larynx, but it doesn't really produce particularly good sounds. It'll be interesting to see what research shows. We're understanding so much more about giraffe now, of course, with the big DNA studies that was done into the different subspecies, and finally a sort of a conclusion to the long argument about how many different subspecies of giraffe there are, how closely related they are to each other. This is the youngest I've ever seen a giraffe eating solid food. Quite fascinated by that. Yes, talking about you and your breakfast. They really are peculiar looking animals. Yes, you are. The longer you look at them, the odder they look. Decided it didn't appreciate the scrutiny. Very good question coming through from Jeff, who says, how are giraffe not easy prey? They look so slow and awkward. They do look slow and awkward. They really, really do. Even when they run, it looks as though they're moving slowly. They're actually not. They can run relatively quickly. Definitely not faster than any predator out here, though. I've been on a few giraffe captures and been up close to giraffe while they're running. They're a lot faster than they look. You're probably looking at about 40 kilometers an hour as they gallop along. It's a very peculiar looking stride. The reason they're not such easy prey is what you're looking at right now, which is those exceptionally powerful legs. Giraffe are capable of kicking in a way that could kill a lion or a leopard, and they have been known to kill lions and leopards that have tried to hunt them in the past. Baby giraffe, on the other hand, are relatively easy prey. Mom will try and protect it, but there's only so much she can do, and baby giraffe quite often fall victim to lions. Lions are capable of hunting giraffe, even adult giraffe, but a young one like this is definitely more at risk, and Mom on her own, I think, would struggle to defend it against a large pride of lions, especially if there's a male involved. And generally you'll find that lion prides will, if they have a male with them, will be more likely to chase and try and catch something like a giraffe. Not necessarily. Females will do it as well. But having a large male, it's going to go across the road there, having a large male helps because he's just got an extra 200 pounds of weight to help to sweep the legs out from under it. One of the things that the lions in various reserves with tarred roads have learned to do is chase giraffe onto the tarred roads. So places like the actual Kruger itself, which of course we're open to, they have tarred roads and the giraffe slip on the tar and fall down. And the lions have learnt that particular technique. And once the giraffe goes down, it will struggle to get back up. You can see how this baby giraffe is relaxed completely with us. And it goes to what James has been speaking about quite a lot, the fact that younger animals tend to be more trusting. It's much easier to, or at least confiding is the word that he uses. It's much easier to get a young animal comfortable with the presence of the vehicle than it is with an older animal. Stop here. Here you go, little one. Stretch! Oh. Stretching out its shoulders and its back. Dave, can we just zoom in on its stomach? Sorry, let's just have a double check. Is that the umbilical scar? Or is that something else? Might actually be a boy that we're looking at. The penis sheath sits very far forward on giraffe. Could be. It's a little bit tricky to tell at this stage. Sorry, we're closely examining you again. I know. Okay, gorgeous. Our little one is disappearing behind the trees. I'm going to let Mom and baby wander off at their own pace. And while we wander off at our own pace, let's go and find out where James is wandering.
Kingfisher, and apparently Rexon and Tristan have come up here, and then there is also a black-headed oriole there. Now I just want you to have a listen to him singing so beautifully. Naturally he stopped and flown off. No, he's on the top there, still on the top. Just listen to this. Isn't that lovely? There he goes. Right, our plan from here is to check where the kill was, because Rexon and Tristan reckon that that's where they were headed back to. I don't know. It's well possible. So we're going to do that. We're just going to follow Lex up there. And then I don't know what we're going to do, frankly. I'm probably going to give up on these leopards and head off and see what else we can find. Maybe a short visit to Chitwa Dam would be the way to go. Megan, a question that we get asked relatively frequently about why it is, about general nomenclature. Why, you say, are big cats' babies not called kittens but cubs? Well, Megan, the answer is that it's basically an English language convention. And it's the same reason we call impalas babies lambs and not calves. It's the same reason we call impala males rams and not ewes. There's no kind of there's no real biological reason why. It just is the convention. So the convention is that all youngsters of the genus Panthera are known as cubs, in the same way that bears are known as cubs. Why that should be the case, I don't know. Hyenas are also cubs. Wild dogs are pups. Mongoose are pups as well, although mongoose are more closely related to cats than they are to dogs, and yet they're still called pups. So it really is difficult to say, Megan. I think it's largely just an English language convention. So we've come back into the area where the kill was, and I don't think there are any leopards here. As far as I can tell, it is a leopard-free zone. But there are some blue waxbills. Can you see? Vim, I know you love to fill blue waxbills in this black monkey thorn in front of us. There we go. You got one. There's one. It's out in the open on the branch second from the left, the sort of longest branch second from the left. So go left from where you are now. Up. and left a bit. Right a bit. Yes, it was there. There it is. You got it, middle of the frame. Blue wax bill, everybody. Or a blue cordon bleu. Now the kill was somewhere around here. I can see Lex looking around with his binoculars. Thank you for that, Vim. So we shall do the same with our binoculars. And I'm afraid we must report a general absence of spotted cats of any sort whatsoever. Be they cubs, adults, kittens, or anything else. We've reversed slightly. We might just follow in here for a little while. There's a grey hornbill right above our heads. They're not being particularly helpful, are they? They're being particularly unhelpful. So Lex wonders if they didn't perhaps just go and have a drink. Now Raquel, you're wondering about the name Chitwa and what it means. It doesn't actually mean anything. It was the name given to a giraffe bull that used to live very close around to the camp, and it became a favourite of the family that owns Chitwa, and I don't know why they gave it that name, Chitwa, but that's why it's called Chitwa, and that's why the logo of Chitwa is two giraffes facing each other. Right, let's go and find out how Tristan's doing. I think he's very close by to where we are. We'll have one last look here, and then we'll head out of this area.
So we are not far from James at all. I can hear him driving around us. And while we were busy looking around for the cubs, we came across these two beautiful male violet-backed starlings. Now, they probably are one of my favorite birds. Their colors are absolutely incredible. They've got that bright violet back with this very, very pretty white chest. And it seems like it's two males that are busy sort of displaying to one another. There's lots of wing flapping and lots of kind of following of one another through the branches. Now, we know that they're both males because the female is actually very, very drab and brown and is not very colorful at all. So definitely two males, and like I say, very, very pretty birds. We've been watching them just flying through the branches of this tree. There was a woodland kingfisher in there earlier, but they seem to have chased him away and he's carried on, but too much action, I think, for him. So we're still trying to look for signs of the Karula and the cubs. We found that area where James checked where they had that carcass, but there was no sign of any meat left. All that's left there is a little bit of stomach content, and we're just trying to see where the tracks go from there. I don't think they would have gone too far, particularly the cubs. If they had a good meal, then I would imagine that they would have found an area somewhere close by to lie in. I don't think there'll be too much movement from them once they've finished. Often after a kill like that, they go and look for water, so we're just trying to check all the little water holes and pan systems, just trying to see if there's any tracks for them where they could have gone. The tracks we had earlier were fresh, so they're somewhere in this area. I think it's just a case of finding them. Unfortunately, these days with the grass getting quite tall, often we can walk right past them without even knowing, so we're going to just loop back on ourselves and just make double sure that we didn't potentially miss anything as we go. Now, I'm quite surprised with our starlings. They're actually still sitting in the tree here. Generally, they're a little bit flighty. They're not easy to get on camera. I've been trying all week, given we have this bird list running, and they typically tend to fly away from me before we get them. But these are being quite cooperative. Oh, and as I say that, they fly away. But they're just flowing out onto that branch there on the right-hand side. Very, very, very pretty birds. Unfortunately, where they are now is a little bit in the shade, so you can't get that iridescent violet that comes through when they hit the sunlight. When they're in the sun, they are absolutely beautiful. Nice. Good one to add to the list, that's for sure. So the birds have been full of song this morning. We've been shouted at by rattling cisticulus on numerous occasions this morning, and lots of woodland kingfishers calling all over the place. I would imagine now the insects are starting to get active after the evening, so it's starting to warm up enough that the insects can get going, and so you'll find that the birds are still, while it's cool enough for them, going to be catching them. So So Dan Miller, you would like to know if the bird contest is just between myself and Brent, and that you think James would beat us hands down. Well, it was open to all. It was open to Jamie and James, and both of which decided to bow out. And Brent and I are, given that we're both quite competitive, have decided to carry on with it. So Dan, if you can convince James, we would happily welcome his competition in this little quest to see who can get the most birds. I know he said to us he's not competing. I think he knows that Brent is going to go to any length to try and win this, so I think James is not too into that, but yeah, I'm sure James would be a worthy opponent. It's he spent a lot of time out here, so I'm sure his knowledge of birds is really good. But we'll have to try and see if we can egg him on a little bit and tempt him into joining us and tempt him into doing a bit of birding with us. It's been quite good so far. It definitely makes you notice more birds, that's for sure. So Jane, since we're on the topic of birds, you're asking whether or not there are birds that are late nesters, so that will nest in late summer or early autumn. There can be. It depends on conditions. So if we get a late rainfall now and we get a real explosion of insects, sometimes you'll find birds that have already bred this season will breed again for the second time. So it does happen that we do sometimes get nests at this time. It would be quite uncommon to start seeing nests towards the end of February, beginning of March. But it is possible, like I say, if we do get good rains and we get an explosion of insects, then sometimes you'll end up with a situation where the birds will have another nest. Also, you'll have migratory birds that sometimes arrive a little bit later, so their nesting is slightly later. So it does happen from time to time. Yes, I actually have seen quite a few times with cuckoos nesting twice in a summer. And last week we had, or the week before I think it was, we had the crombec on its nest with its eggs, so they're still nesting, but it's still kind of middle of summer at the moment. We haven't really gotten towards our fall. Probably be another 2 months until we head to fall, so there's still quite a bit of time, and especially with small birds like crombecs and the likes, their sort of nesting period is very, very short, so they can lay eggs now and still be well within the summer months. Alright, so like I said, we're still just looking around. We've kind of come a full circle. I haven't seen any further signs. We haven't heard any alarm calls. I was hoping that maybe we would get some alarm calls for guinea fowl or francolins or potentially monkeys, but nothing further. It's obviously wherever they are, now that the sun is getting up and it's getting quite bright and warm, I would imagine that they are going to start looking for some shade to rest in, particularly because they've got big full bellies. They're going to probably in all likelihood want to try and rest somewhere. So I'd imagine if we find shady areas, would be the best places for us to check at the moment. It's pretty typical of a leopard to try and find areas like that. So I think James is just busy having a little look around this area as well, trying to see if we can together find these leopards. So he's just off on my left hand side because he's having a look there. So a little bit earlier, just before we were looking at those starlings, there were a few francolins kind of making a bit of a noise, but it didn't sound too serious. It sounded more just like them competing a little bit for a territory area. So I don't think it was anything serious, but maybe James heard that and has come to investigate what's going on. We are also in the area, so if she is here or the cubs are here, we shall definitely find them. Well, Djuma, how long did it take me to learn all the names of the birds? Well, it's taken a really long time, and I probably still don't know them as well as I should. There's a lot of seabirds and birds that we don't get in this area that I've forgotten names or just know them vaguely, but it takes a long time. Southern Africa is got a hugely rich bird population. We have about 1/8 of the world's bird species, so we have close to 1,000 different birds in Southern Africa, so it's a lot of names to remember. But it takes time. As you see them and you get more familiar with them, then you start to learn them. And then obviously there's the really rare ones that everybody wants to see, so you learn their names quite quickly too, in case you get lucky and see one. But it's taken a while. I mean, it's one of those things that over time you develop and you get better. And if you take an interest in it, then you start to pick it up. But it takes a good few years to learn all the names. That's for sure. They're always birds also arriving. So this year in South Africa, or last year should I say, at the arrival of summer, we had quite a number of new birds arrive in South Africa, so birds that had never been recorded. And so it's interesting to see how even now, so many years down the line, with so many different birders that are out here, that we are still discovering new birds within the region. So often it's just migratory birds that have blown a little bit off course with a big storm system, and you end up with a situation where you get these birds that are way out of their range. There was at one stage, and still is I think, there's a buzzard that's supposed to occur in West Africa, so up in Nigeria and those areas, that's been found right on the southern coast of South Africa. So he's very, very lost and is still there. So these things do happen, and so these bird lists actually grow all the time, and you're learning new birds as we start to get these new ones arriving, and these vagrants that shouldn't really be here. Sometimes we tend to see them, and so like I say, the list gets bigger and bigger. Well, that's an interesting one, Raquel. You're asking whether shrikes in South Africa impale their victims. Well, they do. So there's two that I know of that do it fairly regularly. You get your fiscal shrike, which is not a bird we see here. It is possible to see them here, but it would be very, very uncommon. Generally, they occur a little bit more to the west, up onto the escarpment of the Drakensberg Mountains and up onto the Highveld, so around Johannesburg and those areas. So they do it quite a lot, and they've even gotten the name butcher bird because of what they do. So they'll have areas where they skewer their prey, and so it looks like a butchery, and you find all these multiple insects on these thorny trees, or they even use wire posts or anything that they can really skewer something on. And the other one is that's a little bit less common in terms of doing it, is a grey-headed bushshrike. So they don't do it nearly as much, but I have seen them, I've seen a grey-headed bushshrike impale a chameleon of all things, which is quite incredible. But yeah, so they do it. It is a trait of the shrikes. They happen to do it. But I've never seen orange-breasted bush shrikes, for example, or magpie shrikes, which are quite common in this area, do it. It's really only that fiscal shrike as well as the grey-headed bush shrike. Alright, so what's quite interesting is while I was walking, we just stumbled across this area here, and it almost looks like we've gotten to the beach. It looks like a sandy kind of shelled area, and what this is actually a latrine for a civet. Alright, so this is all from a civet, and these little white things that you're seeing are all millipede shells, which is pretty incredible. Now normally a millipede was not something that is eaten very easily by anything, given that these millipedes contain the cyanide, but these civets are able to deal with it and process it, and so they can eat it. And you can see all the rings for the millipedes here, as well as little husks for beetles. There's also a couple seeds inside here, so an omnivorous diet that the civet will have. You can actually see some of the grass seeds over there. And so what it does is it's coming to mark this area as basically a scent marking for other civets to know that this is where its territory is, and so they'll come and defecate here multiple times. Now there's nothing too fresh. Most of this is very, very old because it's all broken apart and kind of has degraded somewhat, and the only real sign of the dung is actually here. But yeah, quite interesting. And you can see, imagine how many millipedes this is to form this area. It's pretty incredible how many they actually go through, but a nice sign. It would have been nice if there was some real fresh droppings here. It would be a place to come and look and see, maybe in the late evenings or very early mornings. Sometimes you'll find them at their latrines busy doing their thing, but a nice find nonetheless. Alright guys, so while we carry on our search and for birds and spotted cats, we're going to go back to Jamie, who I believe is at one of the pans, and see what she has for us.
I'm at the pan just to double check and see whether or not our crocodile is still here, and it's safe to say that yes, it is still around. And for those of you that missed the sunset safari yesterday, a very interesting encounter between Karula, her sub-adults, as they have now been termed, and this particular crocodile, with Karula hissing at it. Astounding footage. You don't get to see that very often. But our Croc is still in residence at Twin Dams, obviously enjoying the hunt for terrapins. I'm trying to see if there are any left in this dam. These poor terrapins yesterday were being munched up at the rate of knots by this crocodile. It seems to have relaxed for now and is just taking it easy. So we'll leave our Croc. I don't think it's going to get up to too much, and start heading through to Gwen the hyena. Hopefully she's home. Wait, hold on. I'm going to go and see which bird of prey is being mobbed over there. It's still being mobbed. I saw it fly past earlier. The hornbill, it looks as though the hornbills are after it. It could be a harrier hawk. The hyenas are taunting me, by the way. There are tracks everywhere. Up, down. I'm convinced they're at somewhere around Treehouse Dam. It's just a question of finding them. Oh, here we go. Down into the dip. You got a visual. Must I go back up? There it is. It is. It's a juvenile harrier hawk. No wonder it's been treated with such disdain from the various birds of prey. Not birds of prey. From the various other birds. Is it a juvenile harrier hawk? It's got that crest. And the adult harrier hawks, the Djuma genes, are a beautiful grey colour, but the way this bird is behaving, the way that it's moving, and the fact that it is being mobbed by birds, suggests to me that it is in fact a harrier hawk. That would explain the angry reaction. Let's try and get... I love harrier hawks. Let's try and get a little bit closer.